Hi everyone, my name is Marisol Massó. I am a transnational language educator, currently working as an ESL teacher in Michigan. I want to greatly thank MSU CLACS for inviting me to present this module for educators who are interested in literature that is reflective of Latin American cultures and experiences. The title of the module is Literature that Connects Stories Across Latin America and the Latine Diaspora. Before I start this presentation, I would like to tell you more about myself and my journey as a transnational educator. I was born and raised in Argentina, where I received my teaching certification and where my career as a language educator started, teaching English as a foreign language. I joined the master's program in TESOL at Michigan State University. I later pursued my doctoral degree in curriculum instruction and teacher education in the College of Education. Over the years, I have gained extensive experience teaching children's books and young adult books as an instructor of undergraduate courses in the teacher education department at Michigan State University, and more recently in my role as an ESL literacy teacher in the Waverly School District, teaching grades 5th through 8th. Together in this teacher module, we will understand, explore, and reflect on key terms and considerations to discuss literature from or about Latin American people and cultures. We will also review some of the major benefits of literature, drawing from seminal academic works and recent research. Based on scholars' recommendations and my own experience teaching literature, we will discuss approaches to selecting literature. We will delve into ways of integrating the literature in the K-12 curriculum. I will share a lesson plan from my own classroom. Throughout this presentation, I will infuse literature titles that have received the America's Book Award. The first episode is guided by the following question: what literature helps us connect across cultures? Scholars in the field of literature make the distinction between global literature and multicultural literature. Let's explore together these terms. For a reader from the United States, any book outside of the country is considered global, no matter who the author is. In countries such as the United States, where there is great cultural diversity, multicultural literature refers to the cultures within that country. A good example of global literature, or a book from outside the US, is the book titled 9 Kilometers. This is a story of a Chilean boy who walks 9 kilometers to school. An example of multicultural literature is the graphic novel Mexikid, a Mexican-American boy who joins a family road trip from California to Mexico to bring his grandfather. Both books were awarded an America's Book Award recognition. The America's Book Award was created 33 years ago by the Consortium of Latin American Studies Programs, also known as CLASP. As noted in their website, this award was created to recognize children's and young adult books that portray Latin America, the Caribbean, or Latinx cultures in the United States. Only 2 book awards are presented each year, but more books may be recognized as honor books. A group of experts assesses the books based on their literary quality, the integration of text, illustration, and design, the cultural representation, and the potential use of the books in K-12 education. This year, the books that received the book award were Popo el Cholo, highlighting Mexican traditions, and Silenced Voices, featuring memories of the Guatemalan genocide. As we explore literature from or about Latin American people and cultures, we need to review what Latin America means and why it is important to think of Latine diaspora today. The term Latin America dates back to the 19th century. It was used by imperial powers to refer to countries in the American continent that were located under the United States. In other words, the term Latin America is a geopolitical term that separates the global north from the global south, including Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. These are 20 countries in total. Most speakers in this region speak Latin languages such as Spanish, Portuguese, and French. While I'll be using this term, I want to acknowledge the uniqueness of each country, culture, society in this region. Another important term is Latine diaspora. It's a term being used to refer to the people who left Latin America and now live in North America, Europe, and Asia, or people of Latin America descent. The United States is home to the world's largest Latine diaspora. Over 60 million people can trace their heritage to countries across Latin America, including Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Venezuela. This number makes up nearly 20% of the total population of the US. There are many misconceptions about people from Latin America. While I don't intend to delve into them, we need to remember that Latinidad is not a race, it's all races. Not all Latinos speak Spanish, not all Latinos are brown, not all Latinos like spicy food. We can challenge these misconceptions by becoming better informed about the history and cultures of the region and its individual countries. Broadly speaking, there are similarities across Latin American countries. The stories of Latin America and the Latine diaspora emerge from a rich tapestry of cultures, shaped by indigenous civilizations, colonization, struggles for independence, migration, political transformation, and enduring movements for cultural affirmation and social justice. We need to remember that this region was not discovered by Europeans. It was inhabited by indigenous people from varied tribes spread out across the continent. They had their own culture, language, religion, ways of living and seeing the world. These lands were colonized mainly by Spain, Portugal, and France in the 1500s. Indigenous people were enslaved, their hands were seized, their native cultures and religions were destroyed. The decline of indigenous populations due to disease, violence, and exploitation led European colonizers to enslave and transport millions of Africans to the Americas for labor. In the 19th century, there was an independence movement in Latin America, which started with independence of Haiti, followed by the independence movements in most Spanish American countries. Brazil became independent from Portugal in 1922, and Cuba was the last major Spanish colony to become independent. The territory that became the last sovereign country was Belize in 1981. When we teach our students stories of Latin America and Latine diaspora, we're responsible for identifying our cultural location and biases. And we're also responsible for becoming aware of how our cultural locations do and do not connect with the cultural location of that book. As readers, we see our culture as the norm, and we need to raise this awareness first in us and in our own students to be able to connect across cultures. However, if we don't approach global stories with this awareness, cultural mismatches can lead readers to feel that they're unable to connect with characters, and so either reject the book as possible or feel pity and superiority. For example, reading a global story like 9 Kilometers requires some preparation. We want to avoid superficial understandings of global stories. Teachers can deepen their understandings of a global community by exploring how geography and history influence economic, social, political, and aesthetic values and beliefs of that culture related to art, music, food, clothing, and other cultural practices. Teaching a story like 9 kilometers in the US requires some preparation to understand and situate ourselves and our students in this specific cultural location as they read the story, understanding the landscape and the life and the resources available in rural areas in Latin America, particularly in the Chilean Patagonia, are key to understand with the protagonist experience of walking to school. Walking to school is a shared experience by school children across cultures. While in the US, most students take the bus. In other countries, students walk, cross rivers, or even climb ladders in dangerous landscapes, and more. An interview with the author of these books explains his motivations for writing about walking to school as a global experience. When the author was asked, "What inspired you to create 9 kilometers?" he said, "The true stories of thousands of boys and girls who in different parts of the world have to walk to their schools. For several years, I saw news in the newspaper and social networks about boys and girls in Asia, Africa, and South America who had to cross borders, rivers, jungles, frozen roads, and huge ravines to study. When I tried to imagine what these boys and girls would feel, look at, and think about, 9 kilometers was born." Since walking to school is not a shared experience by most US students, it is important to build cultural understanding to avoid cultural mismatches. Scholars remind us that these understandings are needed to plan engagements that invite children to think deeply about cultural community. I'd like to wrap up this first episode with key takeaways. Countries in the Latin American region share a past, and therefore they share cultural and linguistic identities. Yet, these countries have a unique history and societies with a blend of cultures and languages. It is our responsibility as readers and educators to understand cultural locations before we bring a global story to our classroom. In the next episode, I will delve into seminal and recent research that explores the benefits of literature in K-12 education, followed by examples and resources for teachers. Thank you for listening to this first episode, and see you next time.